Hello YouTubers, this is Triple Valve Metro Camel. Thank you for joining me on the video today, and thanks for joining on the channel. And a big hi to my recent subscribers. Thank you for subbing me, and if I haven't subbed you yet, apologies, been really busy with work. Excuse me, I will get round to subbing your channel. But anyways, thank you for that, and thank you for everyone that's joining the video today and is watching this at some point. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to do some very simple and inexpensive but professional handy little tips and ideas for your model railway. And today's video is going to be a discussion topic or practical demonstration of how to weather ready to run rolling stock without the use of an airbrush or messy aerosol cans. It's a technique known as dry weather brushing, and I'll show you how to do that very shortly. There's many videos on YouTube on how to do weathering for model railway rolling stock and ready to run stuff with an airbrush. I've done one personally on my channel. Dry weathering stuff, there's loads of stuff out there, and hopefully you'll watch those as well. But if you watch this one and get the basic ideas, then it's job done. So anyway, I'll show you how to do that very shortly, but in the meantime I'm going to bring in our subject, or the medium that we're going to be using, for example. So I'll bring in the faithful old rotating turntable, and basically it's a Bachmann branch line brake van, and as you can see, this one's in the box. I've had it about 3.5 years, but I do look after my stuff, and if it's got a box, it lives in the box but it's not running, so that's how I roll. But anyway, as you can see, my version is pristine. It's absolutely mint in paint finish, and it's just come out the paint shop wherever it is, and it's all nice and shiny. But however, I had one of these. It was a bit of an earlier version of it, and I decided it was too shiny and too newified, so I had a play with it, and this is the result. I'll just get a spin round so you can see at home. Bring the camera in a little bit as well so you can have a little bit of a closer look. And as you can see, it's suitably weathered and nice and grimy. If you compare it to, for example, something like this, that looks too newified, it looks too pristine compared to that. So basically you want to turn something like this into something like that. So I'll show you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is just pop this out of the way. I'm going to take a subject matter, which is, today's subject is a coal wagon, and this particular model I believe is it's a Dapol. You might be able to see that somewhere underneath there. It says Dapol Limited, or Dapol, however you pronounce it. Had this quite a few many years, and as you can see, it's got coal in it. But the side planking looks a little bit too bright and shiny for my liking, and the underframe chassis is a little bit spanking brand new, so we might need to just actually improve that. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So grab yourself a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice, a snack or whatever floats your boat, and I will see you very soon. Hello, welcome back to part 2, and we've got our patient on the table, as it were. So as mentioned before, we're not going to be using an airbrush or any messy aerosol cans, although you can use those two methods, but today we're going to be using something that's very simple to do at home, and it's not going to annoy anybody with any nasty fumes or any unpleasant vapours wafting around the house. So we're going to be using one of these. It's a flat brush, thus so, as you can see. It's got quite a stiff bristle head on there, It's not soft. It's not a sable. It's a cheap and nasty flat brush from a model shop, and basically this is great for doing dry brush work. So we need one of those, and we also need some of this stuff. It's coal, the real stuff. And what we're going to be using is the coal when it's in very fine powder form. At the bottom there, you can see, you can pick that up on the camera at home, right at the very bottom, around about to the middle right of the camera shot, it's very, very fine coal dust powder, and that's what we're going to be using for our base. So what we'll do is, quite simply, I'll show you. You're going to take your brush like this and just dip it in the coal dust. So you can see now the top of the brush is now coloured with the black coal dust stuff. A little bit on there like that. Just give it a little bit more on there. You can use charcoal, artist charcoal, ground up, pretty much the same effect. You want a nice little amount on there, thus so. Put your coal down for 1 minute, and what we're going to do is just, you see you've got this raised planking detail, which is part of the moulding on the side of the wagon panel there. The coal, when you brush it on there, you can see that on the camera, will start to pick it up. Now I've done a small section already, and as you can see, it's already stuck to the moulded grooves of the imitation planking, and it's already given a little bit of relief. And if you compare that area here to the end, for example that plain panel there, you can see already this area here has already been picked out. So we'll carry on with that and see how it goes. Don't be afraid to use a little bit more of this stuff. Just work it in like that. This forms our base colour, and it's even picking out the rivet detail on that, which is what it would do. So just give it a light, work it right in there. You're not going to break it or take any paint off. You notice I'm doing downward strokes like that with the brush. I'm not really going to go across, I'm going more downward like that, because what happens is, as the bristles go across the raised detail, it deposits the coal into the recesses, and you get that kind of finish. As you can see that at home, hopefully, in your screens there. Doesn't look too much at the moment, but we're getting there. I'm just applying the first little coat on there, as it were. So just carry on going at it like that, getting that all in there, as you can see. And you don't want to brush it off too much, you want to leave a little bit left on there like that. Yeah, so look at that, and that's got a little bit of character to it now already, hasn't it, compared to if I flip it over, that's just too shiny and new. So we need to compare that to that side, which is much more nicer. Look at that. That's already starting to get a little bit of character there. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just turn it around to its side, or its face, as it were. And what we're going to do is we'll start doing exactly the same technique in this area as well. Very simple to do, as you can see, and already it's brought that relief up. As you can see there, it's already starting to highlight that relief detail, which is what you want. So we're going to carry on and just reapply some more coal dust in that area like that. And you can what's called stipple the brush as well, which is just dabbing it like that and create that effect on there. And then we're going to flip it around and just do thus so on the other side. Just work it in, and you'll find the brush will move the coal dust pretty much to wherever you want it. It's a very simple little technique, but quite rewarding. And nothing beats coal dust like the real thing, especially if you're weathering coal wagons like we're doing here. So it doesn't matter on your layout, if you've got a coal wagon, it doesn't matter if it's 00 scale or even O gauge, and it's a different livery or a different wagon altogether. The same process and the same practical use works on what you've got at home as well. That's the idea. Get you guys and girls out there having a go yourself. So as you can see, we're just building up the first base coat, if you like, as mentioned, on the side of that wagon. Alright. Now look at that. That's got attitude. That has got character. So we're going to turn it around now, and just this one side's left over, so we're going to go for that side. Exactly the same thing before. Bring that in, and as you can see, the brush, this flat brush I'm using, as you can see, it's already getting pretty dirty, so that doesn't matter. And when you finish with it at the end of the day, you can wash it out in warm soapy water and it will be ready to go again. So you're just building up a layer on there, like I said. Don't forget to do the bottom as well, like that. Oops, went out of shot there, sorry. So as you can see, it's quite a simple little process, and that's what you basically are going to go for, that sort of stage. So you've got, so far you've got the wagon just lightly highlighted with a bit of coal dust, and already, as you can see, it's given it a lot of character. It's vastly improved that from the shiny red finish. But we're not finished there. We are far from finished. We are on a mission here. So what we now bring out in our arsenal of weather finishes, I'm going to use some very, very basic Humbrol super enamel, and it's black. Doesn't have to be super enamel, it can be any matte black paint for model railways. You can weather it down with, or you can, should I say, finish it with thinners to weather it down a little bit more in terms of weathering application. What I'm going to be doing here is basically using this in the following method. Now watch what I do. Take a piece of paper, a little piece of paper like so, just fold it up into a little square, like so, like that. Don't have to use a piece of paper. If you've got a cloth or a rag handy, it works better, but sometimes you have to use what you've got. So I'm going to use a little piece of paper and put my bit of paper down there, like that, right? And all you do is this. Take your brush, don't wash it in water. As you can see, it's virtually dry. It's been dunked in the coal dust stuff, but it's usable still. It's okay. What we're going to do is very, very carefully, you're going to put this into your tin of black paint. Just kiss the paint with the end of the brush. That's too much as it is, which is why our paper comes in handy. And what we're going to do, we're just going to get rid of the paint on the paper like this. Right. Now, as you can see, most of the paint off the brush has gone onto the paper, but there's still a little tiny bit left on the brush, and this is where the magic comes in. You're going to take the wagon from the side like that and just flick it very lightly and very fast across the surface, and I'll show you like this. Just take some paint off there. And even as you saw earlier on, where you've got a little bit of overspill of paint on there, by flicking that across very fast and very rapidly, it's virtually dry, but it's got a little tiny bit of pigment left in the brush. And what we're doing is just covering that area like that. I'll show you how I'm holding the brush at home, okay? I'm holding it a bit like a chopstick, yeah? A bit like that. I'm not holding it like that, I'm holding it just like that in between the thumb and fingers like that. Hold the end of the brush, round about there, and basically just fan it across very quickly, like that. And just work the pigment of paint into the raised detail, and you will find it's picking up all the rivets and all the detail on there. Now look at that. Is that not cool? Right, you're not quite finished yet. Just have a little play with it, and you can play as much as you can with it, but don't overdo it. There's always a temptation to overdo things and to go over it again. Don't resist the temptation to overdo things. And that is suitably finished on that side. Now we'll turn it over and we'll just do the end panel, as you can see. So we're going to get a little bit more paint out the pot, and I'm going to use my turntable as a way of just getting that paint off that brush. Don't want loads of it on there. As you can see, if you see the paint at home on the camera, not on the camera itself, but on the turntable here, I'll bring the focus in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. That's better, isn't it? There we go, folks. And you can see there's hardly any paint left. So what the aim of the situation is just to drop as much paint off that brush as you can onto a plain surface that you don't need to worry about. And just repeat the process. So here we go. And you can flick it this way. Get a little tap on the surface there that you're using to clean your brush. So virtually got a dry brush there. Alright. That, whoops, I went out of shot earlier, do apologise. That, as you can see, is what you're aiming for. Something a bit like that. And you can just push these colours about as much as you want. Something like that. Okay. So now we're just going to turn the wagon around to this side here, and we're just going to repeat the same process. So, luckily, we've got a little bit of paint left there, so we can use the excess paint that I've already wiped on the turntable as our fresh paint source. And again, just come over here and just really flick it across there. As you can see, it's really just highlighting that detail. You don't want to colour out all the the details and lettering off on there, for example, you just want to make it so it shows through, so it's readable but it's very grubby, like that. As you can see, that's there. So I'll be back in a moment. I've just got to plug the camera in because it's going to about to die on me, so I'll see you in a moment. Okay everyone, I'm back. Apologies for that technical issue that the camera was going to die on me, so I had to just plug the mains lead into the video camera and get it going again. So here we are. Okay, where was we? Okay, yeah, we're going to just pick up this paint on the surface of the turntable here, as you can see, and then we're just going to repeat the process on the end of the wagon. You see I'm looking quite quickly, and what happens is you pick up all the details like so. Now you see what's happening. I'm not sure if you can see this at home, but look at these rivets here. These corner panel rivets are starting to actually pop out. It's a very easy little thing to do, and as you can see, that that pretty much is that. So as you can see from the beginning of the shot, before I first attempted this and you first saw it, it was shiny red. Now look at it. It's a coal wagon and it has some character. Like I said, I don't want to overdo it too much, and the key is not to overdo weathering. Whether you're using an airbrush or an aerosol or a flat dry brush like I've been using, the temptation is to overdo the work. Is to put on the paint or the powder, whatever you're using, and then go back and do loads more over the top. The trick is to do a little bit here and there, leave it, and then you build it up in layers. Now as you can see on this side, it's quite heavily weathered on that side in terms of dirtiness. It is a coal wagon, so it's got loads of coal dust and grime on there. We swing it round, and the weathering, for example, isn't in the middle here so much, it's more up this area and down there. And on a real life wagon or anything out that lives outside, it always varies in terms of weathering and also in depth and layers of different colours and how it's actually weathered. So what I'm going to simply say is we've got to build up layers, and we've got to use layers in terms of creating a three-dimensional effect. So the easiest way to explain this is to do what I've just demonstrated there by putting on what's called a base finish, like your main first layer of colour. So for example, it's a coal wagon, and as mentioned, we've got a suitably black, dirty layer on that wagon. So what we're going to do now is quite simply add another colour. I'm just going to put the top back on my paint. You will get paint on your fingers, as you can see I've done, and you will learn a new vocabulary. So luckily I've got an old t-shirt I'm wearing, so I can wipe it on there. So we don't need this anymore, so we'll just put the top on there like that, and then remove it from the area, put it back in my little stash of paints over here. I'm going to be using the next colour, which if you can get this, by the way, is a really good colour to have in your weathering and paint box, and it really is an ideal colour to have. And that colour is, as soon as I bring it over, is it's called Frame Dirt, and it's 402 is the number, and it's made by Rail Match. This stuff is really great, and in fact I do suggest you use thinners with this because it comes out really thick and treacly like in consistency, So I mainly use a lot of this stuff in my airbrushing work. If I'm going to do some airbrushing, some buildings or a coach or a loco or some track, I do use this watered down 50-50 ratio mix with some thinners in my airbrush. And the type of thinners that you can use with that is, he's got one over here, he says, which I have, brand new bottle I've never used. It's this stuff here, Humbrol thinner. So you can use this stuff if you wish with this stuff if you're going to paint a large area, which I do suggest that you do. However, for our little project today, I'm going to be using this neat, and I'll show you exactly what we're going to do. So first of all, we've got a black flat dry brush that's now covered in black paint and a little bit of coal dust. So we need to change this brush in terms of clean, for the brush to clean up basically. So we'll just come in there and do this. I know I'm waffling on a little bit, but do excuse me. So I've got my jar of, this is actually white spirit, type of white spirit that you use for home DIY, that sort of thing. And you're all saying at home that looks dirty and horrible in there. In actual fact it is, it's all quite mucky and murky, but it actually does clean my brushes really well. And you can reuse it over and over again. There's no limit really until it gets really clogged up with gunks of paint and stuff in there. That's when you need to throw it out and put some fresh in there. But this is quite good. As you can see, it's alright, it does the job. And these are only old brushes, by the way. These don't cost an awful lot, so I'm not too bothered about these. They're only dry, flat brushes, very coarse, very bristly in terms of their coarseness. So if I was using a sable brush, obviously I wouldn't be dipping it in this stuff. I'd get some fresh, clean thinners or some white spirit, and I'd use it very respectfully. But as we're doing this little project, it doesn't matter how much abuse you put this through, because it will do the job and it will do what it's designed for. So now we've got a clean brush, I'll just pop the lid on my so put on my shelf up there out of the way. Now what I do generally with brushes, and I do this in general when I'm cleaning brushes, just give it a little clean on a dry surface like that. And that just gets rid of any excess on there. So as you can see, it's much better. That's the natural pigment colour of the brush, by the way, and it's now ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our second colour on there. So as mentioned, for the millionth time, it's a coal wagon. But however, we all know as model railway enthusiasts and builders and railway enthusiasts that you had a lot of dirt also accumulated in the running chassis. You know, the brake blocks, the brake rigging, all the springs got covered in road dirt, brake dust. So how do you replicate that? Well, what you do is take the top off your frame dirt. You can use frame dirt, or you can use sleeper grime, which is the same colour virtually. And once what you do is you just again dunk the brush in there, just kiss the paint very gently, so you've just got a tiny amount on there like that. As you can see, that's more than enough. And then again, just bring your scrap bit of paper in and just brush downwards, remove most of the paint off there, and as you can see it's starting to deposit on the paper, so most of the paint is leaving the brush onto the paper. You only want a tiny bit left on there. And now here comes the magic. What we're going to do is, I'll try and bring this up to the camera, hold the wagon by the couplings at either end. Alright, so you're holding it thus so by each couplings, and what we're going to do is, hope you can see this at home, just very very fast and very quickly just flick across. and you just barely touch the work with the brush. Don't press hard down with the brush, just very, very lightly. Just skim the edge of the work with the brush, and then use the flat edge at an angle like that, so you get in that groove, and just give it a little sweep along there, like you're cleaning it out virtually. But do it very gently, not too hard, very gently. And what's happening is, you're just transforming that into something with a bit of character. I've got a little bit of the black paint that's still touch dry on my little turntable bit, which picks up on the brush, so you can blend it back in. If you use downward strokes like that, it also blends that area in. Now you want to see the original black paint underneath there, but you also want it to look really dirty. Loads of brake dust and road dirt sticking up on that as well. But it picked it up. Also, don't forget these areas here. Oops, sorry about that. I tend to pull it out of shot. And that little bit there, and that little bit in there. Just come over it again. Like that. And as you can see, now it's got a little bit of character to it. In fact, it looks a lot better than what you first saw at the beginning of the video there. So we're now going to move on and just turn it round, and we will do just the other side there. So we're going to do this panel here, and there isn't much to do apart from the buffers. That's all we're going to go for, by the way. Is, oops, we're just going to use the paint on the brush that's left and just highlight. Apologies, it's going to just go over that area there. It doesn't look much probably on the camera at home, but when I show you what it's done, you'll be quite surprised. So what we're going to do is put a little bit more paint on, not too much, just a little bit on the end of that brush like that. As you can see, there's hardly no paint on there, but we're still going to get rid of it, and then just bring that area up like that. The trick is about how light you contact the work with the brush. That's the secret. Very light application. You don't want to go too mad with it. Just a little bit in there. So just get rid of the excess paint on the brush. You don't want it loaded up fully. Just get rid of it, and you can see when the brush is starting to thin out with paint, that's the stage when you pick it up like that and just work across that area. very quickly and lightly. And if you flick it up, if you flick the brush outwards, when you get to this area, by the way, another little tip to use at home, little handy idea is this: when you take the brush and you're doing this area, for example, on any model or loco, if you use very short, light upward strokes like that, what it does, you see the direction of the paint will flick upwards. And what that indicates is that any dirt or brake dust is being thrown up from underneath onto the side of the body, which gravity naturally would follow in that direction. Because if you think about it, if a car goes through a puddle of mud, doesn't it, the water never splashes downwards from the body onto the ground, it always goes upwards where the splash has occurred. So the direction of dirt and muck would go thus upwards. So just, you can blend that area in just like that, what I've described. Do exactly the same as well, but general consensus is just to flick it over very lightly like that, and hopefully you'll end up with something that's got a little bit of character. Like so. And what I do, I just very lightly just use any bit of the paint that's left on there and finally blend that in finely with what I've put on there already. And that's how you get the three-dimensional effect. So this is the frame dirt colour still left on the brush, and now I'm finally going over the coal dust effect that was the coal dust originally, then the black paint, and now we've got frame dirt a little bit over there. So that's three uses of colours, and that I'm well happy with. We'll just go over this area as well a little bit, to be honest with you. Just tidy it up a little bit, but I don't want to over weather it. Like I said earlier, there's a temptation to go over and do things again and over apply an effect. Like I said, if you, wherever you live in the world and you're watching this video, if you go outside to your garden or wherever you live and you look at something that's normally exposed to the weather all the time, it's got different shades of weather and at different levels. And that's what you can do with that simple technique I've just shown you there. So there we go. That's how to weather a ready to run wagon using a dry flat brush, a stiff brush if preferable, and some coal dust, some matte black paint, and some frame dirt. But frame dirt isn't necessarily an option. You can use other effects, but I would use frame dirt because it's about the most closest colour you get to brake dust, even though you can get brake dust colours out there from rail match. But it's a good general colour to work with as a base for what you're doing on the model. So there we go. That's now ready to go on my layout. As you can see there, that's really giving it some character, and nothing looks more realistic than a weathered item on a layout. Doesn't matter if you've only got a small, very tiny layout. if you've got rolling stock and wagons on there that are suitably weathered in this process, then you can really create a very unique layout and certainly a visual appearance. The best thing that I normally do before I end this video and say thanks for watching and hope that you found this very useful, the best thing that I normally do as well, I forgot to mention, it's a big thing to do. If you have any books at home that are helpful in terms of weathering a loco or weathering wagons or whatever you're working on, always have a photograph of the prototype handy. I do have quite several books in my collection with weathered locos and weathered wagons and so forth, but I flipped through them the other night and got the idea how to do this. But basically, if you do have a photograph of a loco or a wagon handy, or a coach, something you're working on, if you've got the photograph of the real thing in its weathered form, then definitely by all means work from that. But generally, if you observe real railways, how things are weathered, particularly in the days of steam, you would have seen wagons like this formed up in a train, certainly in this condition. So there we go. That's my RTR weathering project. Hope that you found it useful, and I hope to see you in the next video. And in the next video I'm going to be showing you how to do some basic soldering in terms of soldering connections and soldering your wires to the track. As a request of a YouTube user that's asked to do, or for me to do a video on soldering, then I'm going to do that video for him and put it up there very shortly. Anyway, once again, thanks for joining me on the video today. I hope you found this useful, and I hope that more importantly you go out after you've watching this video and you go out and have a go yourself. I'll see you soon. Take care.